Hey everyone, and to all of my Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and to all of my totally awesome rocking dudes and dudettes. It's girl Claire again, back with another new video. Face coverings will become mandatory again in shops and on public transport in England from next week under a raft of measures to target the new COVID variant, Omicron. These were temporary and precautionary. Variant was first reported in South Africa on Wednesday. Everyone entering the UK will have to take the PCR test by the end of the second day after arrival and self-isolate until they receive a negative result. All contacts of suspected Omicron case must self-isolate regardless of whether or not they are fully jabbed. Face coverings will be made compulsory in shops and on public transport, but hospitality settings will be exempt from the changes. Those on holiday will now need to pay for PCR tests and self-isolate until they get a negative result. England's COVID rules are being strengthened in response to concern over the Omicron variant. All contacts of suspected Omicron cases will be required to self-isolate for 10 days. This is regardless of a person's vaccination status. Anyone entering the UK will require a PCR test by the end of the second day after their arrival, and will need to self-isolate until they have a negative result. Face coverings will once again be compulsory in shops and on public transport. PM said the new rules will be temporary and will be reviewed after 3 weeks. Introducing mandatory COVID passports, making face coverings compulsory again, asking people to work from home. Government said it repeatedly said there was no plans for another lockdown. COVID booster jabs for everyone aged 40 or over. Single vaccine doses for all 12 to 15-year-olds, encouraging unvaccinated people to get jabbed. 1 metre plus social distancing guidance remains in place, such as hospitals and passport control. Face coverings no longer required by law, but government expects and recommends them in crowded enclosed spaces. Some shops and transport operators still require masks. People who have been working from home should return to the workplace gradually. Under new guidance, people are advised to test for COVID before going to crowded places or spending time with those who are at greater risk from COVID. These measures could be brought back in to allow Wales to have a normal Christmas. NHS COVID pass needed for entry to nightclubs, cinemas, theatres and concert halls and many other indoor and outdoor events. Working from home whenever possible. Face coverings compulsory on public transport and in shops in Wales. Ministers in Northern Ireland have strengthened their message on working from home, asking employees to do so when they can, and businesses to support this where possible. Strengthened arrangements for self-isolation, for close contacts, and return to mandatory social distancing. A limit of 30 people from different households mixing indoors and domestic settings. Face coverings compulsory in shops, indoor seated venues and visible attractions, public transport and some other settings. Vaccine passports for venues including nightclubs, bars and cinemas to be mandatory from the 29th of November. Physical distancing rules remain in healthcare settings. Face coverings still compulsory on public transport and inside places like shops. All school staff and secondary pupils to wear face coverings indoors. Indoor hospitality venues must collect customer contact details, working from home where possible. All over 18s required to prove their vaccine status at nightclubs and other venues. Boris Johnson said people will have to wear face coverings in shops and on public transport again in England. The rules are being tightened up as part of the government's precautionary measures against the Omicron variant of the coronavirus. He said more details will be announced by the Health Secretary in the next day or so. Changes will include hospitality settings, and the rule change will be reviewed in 3 weeks. In Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, they are still mandatory on public transport and many indoor areas. Since July, masks have not been a legal requirement in England anymore. government's COVID autumn winter plan, though use has been recommended in crowded enclosed spaces, but requiring people to wear masks again has been an option under the government's Plan B measures. Face coverings have already been made mandatory for everyone else working in or visiting those commons. In England, the the legal requirement for face covering ended on the 19th of July. Now it is set to return on transport and in shops. In Scotland, masks must still be worn in shops and public transport, as well as pubs and restaurants are not seated. They are required in indoor public spaces and universities and remain compulsory for all secondary school staff, as well as secondary school pupils. In Wales, masks are still legally required on public transport and in all public indoor areas apart from pubs and restaurants. In Northern Ireland, face coverings are no longer compulsory for places of worship or for students in school classrooms, but they must be worn on public transport and in shops and hospitality venues. Although face coverings are no longer compulsory in schools in England, health teachers and health officials can ask staff and pupils to wear them in response to local circumstances. A number of schools across different parts of England have already reintroduced face coverings. Businesses and travel operators can already set their own rules for customers and passengers. For example, TfL, Transport for London, requires face coverings for travel and on the underground and on buses. However, until the latest government announcement, it's not been a legal requirement. Many retailers have continued to ask shoppers to wear face coverings, including Sainsbury's, Tesco and Waterstones, which is a bookshop, by the way. Most people can be refused service, entry or the right to travel if a firm enforces a requirement to wear face coverings, even if it's not legally required. Come on, stupid one. Boris Johnson has announced a tightening of COVID restrictions during a Downing Street press conference following the detection of the Omicron variant in the UK. Temporary and precautionary measures to be reviewed in 2 weeks. Require anyone in the UK to take a PCR test and self-isolate until they have a negative result. In case of Omicron, will self-isolate 10 days. There will also be a ramping up of mask wearing in shops and indoor settings. Face coverings will be made compulsory again in shops and in public transport from next week. All hospitality settings will be exempt. Be better than last Christmas. Yeah, well, it better be. The Omicron variant will spread across the world. Vaccinated who received the booster jab will be less likely to become seriously ill. Nor did he mention the L word. Yeah, well, we all really hate the L word because we all know what the L word is. Measures will be reviewed 1 week before Christmas. Compulsory face coverings in shops and public transport and return to day 2 PCRs for all travellers. Restrictions such as strict tests and return to compulsory face coverings in all public places. And hands regularly, wearing face coverings and keeping a social distance when possible. Wear masks, wash hands, get vaccines and tests. Class scientists self-selection. Ramping up safe mask wearing in shops and indoor settings. Also, introduction of face masks again. A host of new measures have been introduced in a bid to slow down the Omicron COVID-19 variant. Anyone who travels abroad must take a PCR test on day 2. On their arrival back in the UK, and self-isolate until they get a negative result. From 4 AM on Sunday, UK and Irish residents who arrive back in the country must quarantine. Day, Friday, November 26th. Anyone who comes into contact with someone who has been tested positive for the Omicron variant must isolate at home for 10 days, regardless of vaccination status. Face coverings on public transport and in shops will return from next week, but will not be mandatory in hospitality venues. Dean are currently only being offered 1 dose of the jab. Mask wearing is already mandatory in indoors and on public transport in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and some form of vaccine passport is required. So it will be assessed in 3 weeks. Face coverings will once again be mandatory in some settings. Testing rules will come into force for anyone who arrives in the country from abroad. There will be fees entry into England. Must isolate at home for 10 days, regardless of vaccine status. Stay in 3 weeks. Mask wearing is only mandatory in indoors, public transport in Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland. So yeah. Hope you're all having a good weekend, I did. Still recovering from Friday. Friday just gone. It's probably the worst. Like 1 hour, still not in the right mind because of a certain person that is also a member. I'm not going to mention their name, but they know who they are because they watch my videos. So I'm not going to mention their names because, you know, long story. As for a college update, I haven't really got one yet, but when I do, I'll let you know, of course, when in due time. And yeah, obviously this person knows who they are. I was like talking to them, and they're like still want to be like friends and all that. In spite of like, you know, what's been going on, that's why I've been like taking out on them, like going on with my sister Janine, and you know, told Sanya about it. So yeah. So thanks so much for watching. If you like what you see, please feel free to leave a like, comment down below, share this video, and most importantly subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Peace out to all of my Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and keep on rocking, you totally awesome rocking dudes and dudettes. This has been your girl Claire, signing out, and remember to always be yourself and stay yourself. So peace out to all of my loyal pros and proesses. Bye, and ciao for now.